Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Dots and Bots Weeks 4, 5, and 6 video. We are going to do things a little differently this episode. Instead of covering the specific week results, I'm going to update everyone on how each dot owner is performing. Before we dive into these results, let's go over some of the user trades that have happened up until week 6. First trade, we have Jimmy Reddington's Falcons giving up a 94 overall Derrick Henry and a 6th rounder to Tim Simon's Eagles to get a lesser running back in return, 87 overall Le'Veon Bell, but also picked up a handful of early draft picks. Our second trade has Jim trading away his currently slotted first overall draft pick to receive from Chili Chill's Chargers their 32nd and 64th overall picks, plus next year's first and converted running back Scotty Miller. The last trade we are going to cover is Jimmy now trading away his extra running back Cam Akers, plus a first rounder in this year and next year to bring in his new franchise quarterback, Cam Newton. Now that we've covered the important trades, let's get back to the topic of the video, how all 8 owners have been performing up until this point. We're going to start this off in a worst to first format, starting in the AFC. Here we go, it's George Remac's 0-3 Titans taking on the 1-3 Steelers in Week 4. And Tennessee is up 3 late in the 4th, only needing a first down to run out the clock, and Drew Lock steps back, throws it to his running back, who picks up the first, and Titans win this one 17-14. In Week 5, Buffalo up 6 with less than 2 minutes left, and Mahomes hands this one off up the gut to Geis, who has room to put this one away, beating George 34-21. Week 6 now, and the Titans have themselves an overtime battle against division rival, the Houston Texans. And it's Tom Brady pitching right to NFL's leading rusher Ezekiel Elliott, who weaves out of a tackle, breaks through another defender, squeezes by a safety, and Elliott is loose to the 20, the 10, touchdown Texans. Game Texans. Not the way George wanted to finish off Week 6, I'm sure. Now let's take a look at how some of the individual players have performed so far this season. Drew Lock will have to shoulder some of the blame for Tennessee's measly 1-5 start after only completing 50% of his passes, with 8 of them for touchdowns and 15 interceptions. Running the rock has actually got some good production from his tailbacks. Josh Jacobs has a 4.1 yard average with 3 rushing touchdowns, and change of pace running back Ito Smith has a 5.4 yard average on only 14 carries. Headed over to his receiving threats, shockingly enough, his number 1 so far is not his first round selection in the fantasy draft, Mike Thomas, but it's Darius Slayton, leading the way with 15 receptions, 322 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Titans are going to need some production out of the passing game if they want to turn this 1-5 start around. Over to defense, he's got linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski leading the way with 42 tackles, Ed Oliver leading with sacks at 4, and his interception leader is Julian Love with only 2. Lastly, we have special teams, where Greg the Leg is only connecting on 50% of his kicks. Jamie Gillen is averaging 47 yards per punt, and his kick returner Christian Kirk bringing it back 24 yards every time he takes it out of the end zone. Okay, we've covered George Remack and the Titans. Let's take a look at Nick Red's Miami Dolphins and see how they're performing. In Week 4, they got their first win of the season for Seattle, but now we have some Week 5 action, and it's Miami losing big at the end of the 3rd, but Jordan Love scrambles up the field and gets into the end zone to bring the score difference a little closer. Dolphins lose this one 17-6. In Week 6, Miami is up 8 with 6 seconds left and hand the ball to the rookie running back, who scores and extends this one to 27-13, giving them their second win of the season. We're caught up with how they've played. Now it's time to look at the stat sheets. Rookie quarterback Love has been struggling this year, only completing 50% of his passes with a very low 3 passing touchdowns. At running back, it's their other rookie, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who can't get that elite play that we all saw from LSU, going just yet averaging 38 yards on the ground per week, but he does have 4 rushing touchdowns. At receiving, it's been all the future Hall of Famer Julio Jones, who is leading the way with 18 catches, 400 plus yards, and 2 touchdown grabs. They're going to need some of the young talent around them to step it up in the second half of the season if they want to turn it around. On the defensive side of the ball, Tremaine Edmonds is their tackle and interception leader, while Aaron Donald and Jerron Reed each have 3 sacks. In special teams, Gonzalez is having trouble getting the ball to go through the uprights, but their punter is getting tons of work with 11 going for 451 yards. The return man, KJ Hamler, is averaging 22 yards per kick return. That's a wrap on the Dolphins. Now let's check out how Joe Shoes and the Cleveland Browns are doing. In Week 5, we have Joe Shoes in a tied game versus the Colts on the goal line with 9 seconds left, throwing a slant to Juju Smith-Schuster, who hauls it in, and they win this one, 24-17. Over in Week 6, it's another close one, Cleveland losing by 1, but opting to go for the 2-point conversion after scoring. They hand the ball off up the middle, and DeAndre Swift fights, but is just short, giving Pittsburgh this W over the Browns by 1 point. Let's head over to the stats to see how the Cleveland Browns are performing 6 weeks into the season. At quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky has 9 passing touchdowns with a whopping 16 picks, and again, another quarterback only completing 50% of his passes. At running back, the Browns can't get much going, with Kareem Hunt only averaging 3.4 yards per carry with 160 yards on the season. Taking a look at the receiving leaders, it's their tight end Chase Claypool with 15 catches, 322 yards, and 2 touchdowns leading their squad. But Marquise Goodwin has 288 yards and Juju Smith-Schuster has 250 yards, so there is a healthy balance of passing the ball around. On defense, Leighton Vander Esch is leading the way with 43 tackles, and their sackmaster Khalil Mack has 5 on the season. For their turnovers through the air, it's Jeff Gladney with 2 so far, leading the way for the Browns. Their kicker, Josh Lambo, is 3 for 3 so far in the season, and they've yet to punt the ball. Their return man is Marquise Goodwin, who's averaging 25 yards per return on kicks, and on punts has only fair caught it so far this season. That's how the Browns have been performing. Next up, it's Chili Chill and the Chargers. Let's see how they do it in their Week 5 action. Week 5 kicks off with Tua dropping back, scrambling to the right, looking downfield, tossing it to DK Metcalf, who dives towards the pylon and extends this to a 2-touchdown lead to beat the Saints. Now we've got the 5-0 Chargers up 35-17 over the 4-1 Jets, and they're trying to make a comeback, launching this one downfield, but it's intercepted by Anthony Brown, who returns it as far as he can, eventually ending this one for a victory for the Chargers. Now checking out the stats in the passing category, it's Tua Tagovailoa with 12 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions, while completing 70% of his passes. Kirk Cousins has had to come in a few times and has a 6 touchdown to only 1 pick ratio. Over in rushing, it's the all-star running back Saquon Barkley getting both of the carries, with 93 on the season, taking him for 517 yards on a 5.6 yard average and 5 touchdowns through 6 games. The Chargers' receiving threats are very balanced, with 3 different guys over 20 catches, 350 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the season. On defense, it's the rookie linebacker Patrick Queen leading the way with 36 tackles, and for tackles for loss, he also is leading the team with 3. In the sack category, the all-star big men Chandler Jones and Fletcher Cox aren't doing too much to start the year with only 1 each, but the converted linebacker DJ Swearinger at 5.5 sacks throughout the season is surprising some with how his presence has been felt so far this season. For interceptions, so far, they have 8 total in the year, and Patrick Queen and Anthony Brown both leading the squad with 2 each. Over to special teams, it's Justin Tucker, who's kicked it 8 times and all 8 went through. As far as punting, Johnny Hecker hasn't even had to stretch his legs yet. For returning, it was Hakeem Grant to start the year, but the newly signed free agent Andre Roberts has taken over and has gotten more production out of it. That's how the 6-0 Chargers have been playing so far this year. Now let's check out the NFC's Atlanta Falcons. Jimmy Reddington's Falcons are off to a slow start, taking this Week 4 loss to the Packers, moving to 0-4 on the season. Now against the Panthers, down 7 late in the 4th, Jalen Hurts is dropping back, looking to throw, and throws an interception to a lurking defensive lineman to end their chances in Week 5. Now on to Week 6. It's a head-to-head matchup versus Eric's Minnesota Vikings. Jimmy down 2 scores, 2:30 left, tries to make something happen with this Devin Bush interception, but ultimately fails to do anything with it, eventually losing this tough head-to-head matchup. That's how the past 3 weeks have gone for Jimmy's Falcons. Now let's check out the stats and see how so far they've performed this season. Jalen Hurts was their original quarterback, who was at a 4 touchdown to 9 interception ratio, so as you saw earlier, they traded to Cam Newton to try to make a change in their lineup. For rushing, it's the newly acquired Le'Veon Bell, whose stats show some of his production for the Eagles before he was traded for Derrick Henry, but so far they need to get more out of him as well so they can turn this 0-6 start around. Over to receiving, it's the 2-year pro Antonio Callaway with over 300 yards and 1 touchdown, which was featured in the top 5 plays of the week earlier this season. Let's turn this around and look at the defensive side of the ball, where it's Michigan alum Devin Bush with 33 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 interceptions, so far the MVP of their 0-6 defense. Keanu Neal has also made a dent with his 4 sacks on the season. The return man for the Falcons is also their leading wide receiver Antonio Callaway, who is off to a good start in that category as well. That's how the Falcons have been doing. Now let's check out Nick B's Rams. We're going to start this one off with a Week 5 battle where Rams are getting destroyed by the Washington football team in a technical difficulty broadcast, eventually losing this one by over 30 points. For Week 6, it's some more technical difficulties, where the Niners take this last-second field goal to win this one 29-28 over the Rams. LA has dropped 2 of the last 3, now sitting at 2-4, which is 4th place in the NFC West. Let's take a look at how the passing stats have been going so far this season for Russell Wilson. With only 7 touchdowns, 11 picks, and 62 completion percentage, he's hoping he can flip the script and start getting the mojo rolling so he can get some wins back on the schedule. The rushing leader so far has been the rookie from Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor, who's actually lighting it up with a 6.5 yard average, 365 yards, and 6 touchdowns, just behind the league leader Ezekiel Elliott. At the receiver position, it's the 3 speedsters, Henry Ruggs, John Ross, and Hollywood Brown, all with 2 touchdowns, while Ruggs and Ross also have over 350 yards receiving. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, it's Bobby Wagner leading the league and the Rams with 52 tackles so far in the season, and their defensive tackle, Geno Atkins, leading the squad with 4 sacks. Interception leader also happens to be the tackle leader, Bobby Wagner, with 2 on the season. Over to special teams, they've been struggling to get anything to go through the uprights, 0-1 on the year, but have punted 3 times for 121 yards. The return man is John Ross, who's off to a decent start so far this year. That's how the Rams have been performing 6 weeks into the season. Now let's move on to Eric B's Vikings and see what he's been up to the past few weeks. In Week 4, the Vikings got the blowout win over the Texans, 49-14, and now we've got some Week 5 action, where a late field goal gives Minnesota its 3rd win of the season over Seattle, 27-24. Now over to Week 6, it's the matchup we saw earlier, Jimmy Reddington's Falcons versus Eric and the Vikings. And this is actually after Jimmy's Devin Bush interception, firing it downfield, but Eddie Jackson is there to intercept it, looking for somewhere to go, finding room to the right, and is running as fast as he can, ends up bringing this one back to the house for a touchdown, giving the Vikings the 28-7 victory. After only starting the season off 0-2, they've won 4 in a row, and it's all due to their quarterback Kyler Murray, been killing it so far with a league-leading 18 touchdowns, 1,811 yards. The rushing leader has also been Kyler Murray, who's leading the team with 244 yards and a 9.8 yard average. Kamara's been no slouch, getting into the end zone 3 times as well. Over to receiving, we see Kamara also has 2 receiving touchdowns and 300 plus yards, but the big man to talk about here is McCole Hardman, with over 600 yards on the season, averaging 102 every single game with 5 touchdowns. Speaking of 5 touchdowns, Will Fuller also racked up 5 scores in 6 weeks so far in this season. Over to defense, they have 4 different guys with over 20 tackles so far, and for the sack category, it's Takk McKinley leading the way. And as we've seen in top 5 plays of the week and in the highlights from Week 6 just now, Eddie Jackson is leading the team with 3 interceptions. The man kicking field goals is the legend Stephen Gostkowski, who's 5 for 5 so far this season. And punting the ball doesn't need to be brought up, because he's only done it twice for 81 yards in 6 weeks. The kick return guy, it's 2 different people, Andy Isabella and Isaiah Rodgers, so far averaging each 23 yards per return. Vikings have been off to a hot start. Let's tune into the Eagles and see how hot it can get. this squad. Eagles took their first loss of the season week 4 against the Niners, 23-24, but now we've got some week 5 action. Dial up the screen to Derrick Henry, who they got from the Falcons, who gets this first down and ends this one for Philadelphia. Over to week 6, we've got another tight one, 21-21 in overtime, and Philadelphia kicks this field goal to win it and takes this one to a 3-point victory. I've done the past 3 weeks. Now let's check out the stats and see who's leading the way. It's Josh Allen so far with almost 1,400 passing yards, 13 TDs, and only 8 interceptions, 6 weeks into the year. Over to rushing, it's Derrick Henry as the leader, but the stats may be a little confusing because it's still showing some of the stats he acquired while with the Atlanta Falcons. Let's move over to the receiving category. Looks like it's the rookie receiver from Arizona State, Brandon Ayuk, with 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns so far in the year, but their touchdown leader is tight end Jared Cook, who scored 4. Over on the defensive side of the ball, it's 3 DBs leading in the tackle category, and the newly acquired defensive end Everson Griffin leading the squad with 5 sacks. For interceptions, it's Jamal Adams and Bradley McDougald tied at 2. Headed over to special teams, it's Graham Gano, who's 4 for 5 on the year, and their punters only had to kick 3 times, but brought them out for 130 yards total. At returner, they got the speedster running back Raheem Mostert, who has 12 returns for 280 yards. That was your Week 6 update on how all 8 of the dot owners have performed. Now that we have all the stats from the 8 individual teams, let's check out how the NFL's stat leaders are going. Kicking it off with the passing leaders, it's, as we saw before, Kyler Murray, who's leading the league in passing yards and touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers, being no slouch, is leading the league with a 123.5 QB rating. Just as we saw in the Week 3 recap episode, Ezekiel Elliott, now in Week 6, is still crushing it this season with 612 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, and averaging 7.7 yards per carry. Over on our receiving leaders, it's at least 3 different people. McCole Hardman leading the way with 614 yards, Amari Cooper with 6 touchdowns, and Mike Williams from Clemson with 40 catches so far. Moving over to defense, and it's Bobby Wagner with 52 tackles, Chili Chill's DJ Swearinger with 5.5 sacks, and Kevin Byard with the interception total of 5 on the year. Now that we're covered throughout all the statistics of the Dots and Bots Madden League up to Week 6, let's see how the standings are going, starting off with the AFC. Big dogs in the AFC are the 6-0 Jacksonville Jaguars and Chili Chill's Los Angeles Chargers, also at 6-0, leading their divisions. George Remack and the Titans need to turn it around this season if they want to have a chance at making the playoffs, as they've only started 1-5 to start the year. But Miami at 2-4 and Joe Shoes' Browns also at 2-4, both in dire situations, needing to take the leads back in their division to have a shot to get into the playoff hunt. Let's check out the NFC standings, and it's Tim Simon's Eagles on top of their division at 5-1. Minnesota's nice 4 wins in a row has brought them just behind Green Bay in the NFC North, while Nick B's Rams are 2 games back in the NFC West, and Jimmy Reddington's Atlanta Falcons, the only winless team left in the Madden League, needing to do something to get this train rolling. That's it for this week's episode of the Dots and Bots Madden League. Thank you for tuning in to the weeks 4, 5, and 6 update. Appreciate everyone for sticking around and watching the new style video. In future episodes, I may tend to do 2 weeks in one, or maybe even 3 weeks in one, but I'm going to switch it back to the original format, introducing player of the weeks and top 5 plays of the week. If you are interested in the top 5 plays of the week, those videos will still be dropping, so take a look at my channel, as week 5 and week 6 top 5s will be available to watch. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and I'll catch you guys later.